My name is Meghan Sussex now. Call me Meghan Markle one more time, Mindy f***ing Kaling.
The woman who rocked Lilibet to sleep every single night.
I need to do this for my family. This is not a surprise to anybody. It's really sad that it's got to this point, but I've got to do something.
The woman who knew every cry, every smile, every milestone of that little girl's life has finally broken her silence.
The stories would come out. So apparently, according to other journalists, we found out that there were a lot of porcupines probably told to the royals and even to Harry when they met her, and in order to cover up.
And what she says she saw inside the Sussex mansion has set the internet on absolute fire. We're talking about allegations so specific, so documented, so raw, that even the most loyal defenders of Meghan Markle have been left scrambling for answers. I want you to stay with me through every single second of this video, because this story builds, and by the time we get to the hospital records, you're going to understand exactly why this has become one of the most talked about royal scandals in years. This is the story of Elena Ramirez, the nanny, the witness, and the woman who says she could no longer live with what she allegedly saw. Who is Elena Ramirez? Let's start at the very beginning, because understanding who Elena Ramirez is and why her account carries so much weight is everything. Elena is not a tabloid journalist. She is not a celebrity. She has no large social media following, no book deal, no publicist. By all accounts, she is a middle-aged Mexican nanny who spent over a year and a half working inside one of the most closely watched households in the world, the Sussex family home in Montecito, California. She cared for Lilibet from the very early days. According to her own testimony, she was there for the diaper changes, the 3 a.m. feedings, the nights when the baby simply wouldn't settle and someone needed to step in with patience and love. Now here's the question I want you to sit with for a moment. Why would a woman like Elena, with no public platform, no financial motive and everything to lose, step forward with allegations this explosive? That is the central question that turned this story from gossip into something the world couldn't look away from. Elena says the answer is simple: guilt. Prolonged, suffocating guilt over what she claims she witnessed, and the fear that her silence was making her complicit. When she finally gave her first public interview, a live stream organized by Samantha Markle on her YouTube channel, Elena appeared on screen looking exhausted, her eyes heavy, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. But her voice, though trembling, was resolute. She wasn't there to sell a story. She was there, she said, because she could not stop thinking about Lilibet. In her own words, she described loving that child like her own. She talked about being the one who rushed in during moments of distress. She described a household that, at least according to her account, gradually shifted, as schedules grew busier, as projects multiplied, and as a little girl's cries allegedly began to go unanswered for longer and longer stretches. Now, and this is important, Elena is one person, one perspective. And we will get to the questions surrounding her account, because this story has layers. But what made Elena's testimony different from mere allegations was the trail she says she left behind. She didn't just talk, she came with receipts. The audio that broke the internet. Before Elena's interview ever aired, something else had already detonated across social media. An audio clip. It surfaced on a completely anonymous account on X, formerly Twitter, and within hours it had spread to every corner of the internet. By the time most people woke up that morning, it had already racked up millions of listens. Talk shows were scrambling, podcasts were going live, comment sections were exploding. The clip was short, barely a few seconds, but the words cut through the noise like a blade. A woman's voice, cold, dismissive, laced with irritation, was heard saying that she never would have had her daughter if it weren't to hold on to her husband, that the child needed to be removed from the room, that she was annoying. Now, the voice was not definitively confirmed. Audio forensics is a complicated science, and the clip originated from an anonymous source. Those are facts we cannot ignore. but the distinctive blend of British and American accents in the recording led a significant portion of the public to draw their own conclusions. And the allegations embedded in those few words were devastating. Think about the timing for a moment. This clip didn't surface on a quiet news day. It broke at the exact moment Meghan had just announced a new Netflix deal, reportedly worth tens of millions of dollars, centered on documentaries and inspirational content. Days earlier, she had given interviews discussing the beautiful chaos of motherhood, the balance of career and family, the journey, and now this. The internet did not wait for verification. The court of public opinion moved at lightning speed, and the verdict it was rushing toward was not gentle. Here's what I want to ask you directly. We live in an era where audio can be manipulated, where accounts can be fabricated, and where timing can be engineered. Does that automatically mean this recording was fake? Or does the sheer detail, and what came after, change the calculus entirely? Keep that question in your mind because the story was only getting started. Samantha enters and changes everything. Within days of the audio surfacing, the woman who has arguably been Meghan Markle's most persistent public critic stepped into the spotlight. And this time, she didn't come empty-handed. Samantha Markle, Meghan's estranged half-sister, appeared on an American talk show with red eyes and an emotional expression that was hard to dismiss. She looked like someone who had been carrying something heavy for a long time. Her statement was unequivocal. She claimed the recording was real. She said she had evidence from a former staff member who had worked inside the Montecito home and could no longer stay silent. She named Elena Ramirez as her source. Now, let's be honest about something. Samantha Markle is a polarizing figure. For years, critics have accused her of being opportunistic, of trading on a family connection she rarely acknowledges as complicated, of riding her sister's fame to build her own platform. Those criticisms don't simply evaporate because she is making serious allegations. But here's what shifted the ground beneath the story. Samantha's credibility in this instance wasn't resting solely on her word. She said she had verified Elena's employment history through Nanny agency records. She said she had a witness. And crucially, she said there was video. A short clip, she claimed, taken from the Sussex home's own security camera system. Elena had allegedly backed up the footage before she left, worried about Lilibet's well-being. When that video was released, the internet stopped. The footage, described as security camera footage from inside the home, allegedly showed Lilibet, around 2 years old, alone in a playroom. She was sobbing, uncontrollably, reaching for the door, calling out repeatedly. The crying continued for over 7 minutes without stopping. In the adjacent room, according to the footage, Meghan was lying on the sofa, earbuds in, phone in hand, occasionally smiling at something on screen. She allegedly never looked up, never moved. The clip ended when Elena entered the room, scooped Lilibet up, and began to comfort her. Samantha's statement was direct. The camera belonged to the home's own security system. Elena had saved it before quitting. The timestamp, Samantha claimed, matched a period when Meghan was preparing for an advertising photo shoot. Now here's where the story gets critically important, and where I need you to think carefully rather than react emotionally. Meghan's team immediately labeled the footage doctored, a fabrication, part of a coordinated smear campaign, and that is a claim that deserves serious weight. Doctored video is not science fiction in 2024. It is entirely possible to manipulate footage. The absence of independent forensic verification is a significant gap in the evidence chain. But here's the other side of that coin. If you're going to claim footage is fabricated, the expected response is legal action, injunctions, forensic counter-analysis, a lawsuit, not silence. And silence, heavy, prolonged silence, is largely what followed. Kate is brought into it and fires back. As if the story didn't already have enough oxygen, it was about to be doused in fuel. During a podcast appearance, her first public response since the scandal erupted, Meghan made a move that many saw as a critical miscalculation. After insisting the video was fabricated and that Samantha was running a revenge campaign, she turned her sights on Kate Middleton. She insinuated that Kate only looks like the perfect mother because she is still inside the royal system, protected, curated, and managed. She suggested that no one truly knows what happens behind closed doors at Kensington Palace. The implication was clear. If my image can be weaponized, so can hers. The response from Kensington Palace was swift, measured, and devastating in its brevity. Kate's statement didn't waste a single word. She asserted she had never mistreated her children and had always placed family first. And then came the line that sent shockwaves through royal commentary circles. If Meghan continued to make false insinuations about how she cared for her children, Kate would not hesitate to pursue legal action to protect her honor and her family. Read that carefully. Kate didn't just defend herself, she drew a legal line, in public, on record. And the contrast the public immediately reached for was almost automatic. Think about the images that flood the internet when you search for Kate with her children. George at football matches, Charlotte learning to paint, Louis, chaotic, joyful, completely unfiltered, pulling faces at public events while Kate laughs beside him. These weren't staged photo opportunities. They were the accumulated weight of years of public moments that told a consistent story. Against that backdrop, the allegations swirling around the Sussex household hit differently. Comment below right now. Do you think Meghan bringing Kate into this made things better or worse for her? I want to know what you think. Kate's legal warning wasn't just a defensive posture. It was a reminder to the world that she had nothing to hide and no patience for being used as leverage in someone else's narrative battle. And the public responded accordingly. Opinion polls in the days that followed showed Kate's support ratings climbing, while Meghan's dropped to levels analysts described as unprecedented. The hospital record. The moment everything changed. Everything up to this point, the audio, the video, the competing statements, could theoretically be contested. Recordings can be questioned. Video can be disputed. Testimonies can be challenged. But documents are different. In a live stream lasting over an hour on her YouTube channel, Samantha Markle released what many commentators immediately called the most significant piece of evidence in the entire saga, a scanned copy of a hospital admission record. The document, she said, bore the stamp of a well-known California pediatric hospital. The date placed it over a year before the scandal broke. And the reason for the emergency admission? Severe abdominal pain. The patient was Lilibet, just 1 year old. The name signed as the responsible adult who brought the child in. Elena Ramirez, not Meghan, not Harry, the nanny. Samantha, her voice cracking as she spoke, said she knew about this hospitalization because she had been there. She described Elena calling her in a panic, unable to reach either parent. The two women rushed the baby to the hospital. Elena signed the admission paperwork because no parent was present to do so. And then Samantha released what she described as screenshots of text messages between Elena and Meghan from that day. Elena's message was urgent. She told Meghan that Lilibet was in severe pain and that they were taking her to the hospital. Meghan's alleged reply, "Okay, update me later. I'm on set. No, I'm coming. No, which hospital? No, how bad is it? Just update me later." Harry, according to Samantha's account, had his phone off for the entire 3 hours the child was in the emergency room. Now I need to pause here, because this is the moment the story shifted from scandal to something more serious in the public consciousness. A 1-year-old child, screaming in pain. Emergency hospital admission, neither parent reachable, a nanny signing the paperwork. And allegedly, when the mother was finally notified, "Handle it yourselves, I'm busy." Legal experts who commented in the days that followed were consistent in one observation. If this documentation is authentic, It would represent powerful evidence in any defamation case Meghan might attempt to bring. The implication being, pursuing legal action would mean subjecting that document to court scrutiny, and that would be an extraordinarily risky gamble. Ask yourself this: if this document were fabricated, forged, or taken wildly out of context, what would you do? You would immediately pursue legal action to expose the fraud. You would file. You would fight. You would make the legal process your vindication. 3 days passed. No lawsuit was filed. No forensic rebuttal was produced. No legal action was taken against either Samantha or Elena. The silence was deafening. Meghan's defense and why it backfired. Here is where you need to pay close attention, because this is the moment the story tilts completely on its axis. Prince Harry did not simply request the return of his titles. That is not what happened. And if you have been reading the breathless headlines suggesting otherwise, you have been getting an incomplete picture. What Harry did was far more complicated and far more human than a simple reversal of a public dispute. According to royal insiders with direct knowledge of the situation, Harry made a formal approach to the palace, not through lawyers, not through press representatives, in which he acknowledged in writing that his use of royal styling during his unauthorized Canadian visit had been inappropriate, that it had created confusion about his relationship to the crown, that it had placed the palace in an impossible diplomatic position. He did not just apologize. He accepted responsibility in the specific constitutional language that the palace needed to hear. We are not simply talking about a family making up after an argument. We are talking about a constitutional recalibration, one that would require not just Harry's willingness, but a formal determination by the palace about what duties, obligations, and boundaries would define any reinstated status. Senior constitutional experts have suggested that any reinstatement would likely involve explicit conditions, a defined scope of royal duties, clear restrictions on commercial activities tied to royal branding, constraints on public statements about the institution. In other words, Harry would not just be getting his title back. He would be accepting, formally and in writing, the responsibilities that should have always accompanied it. Is that a trade he is willing to make? Is that a sacrifice Meghan could accept? And is the palace actually prepared to reopen a door it closed with such deliberate finality? Tell us what you think. Could you walk back into a life you publicly rejected, on terms set by the institution you criticized? What would that cost you? So here we are, at the edge of a moment that could rewrite royal history, or collapse under the weight of its own contradictions. The variables are extraordinary in their complexity. Can Harry accept a reinstated role that comes with real obligations? Can Meghan genuinely support that without it unraveling what she has spent years building? Can William and Harry find their way back to something that resembles brotherhood? Can the palace manage the diplomatic and media dimensions of a restoration without it appearing like a reversal that undermines Charles's authority? And underneath all of those questions, the deepest one: can a family this fractured, this publicly torn apart, this thoroughly exposed to global scrutiny, can they find something private enough, real enough, and strong enough to hold? Royal analysts are watching 3 specific signals for clues about where this is heading. First, whether Harry makes any further public references to the palace, and whether those references are critical or conciliatory in tone. Second, whether King Charles makes any public statement, however oblique, about the possibility of reviewing the November decisions. And third, and perhaps most tellingly, William. If the Prince of Wales is seen publicly, anywhere, in any context, in Harry's company, the story resets entirely. The cameras will be watching. The world will be watching. And somewhere between Montecito and Buckingham Palace, 2 brothers and their father are navigating something that no constitutional precedent, no royal protocol, no PR strategy can fully prepare them for. The oldest and most difficult thing there is, the slow, uncertain, deeply human work of finding the document that started everything. Harry wanted his children brought back into the fold they were born into. Insiders say he had been desperate, genuinely desperate, to return to the UK, that his life in America had begun crumbling under pressures that went far beyond anything the public could see from the outside. The empire he and Meghan had built on the strength of their royal brand was fracturing, and he needed the monarchy more than he had ever wanted to admit. And here is precisely where the story turns. When that 72-page file landed on Prince William's desk, his response was not the emotional, wounded reaction of a grieving brother. It was the calculated, methodical, ice-cold response of a future king who had already decided where his duty lay. According to palace insiders, he did not hesitate. He did not reach for the phone to call Harry. He did not dispatch a trusted intermediary to arrange a private conversation. He reassembled what insiders are calling the Sovereign Succession Security Council, a body of senior legal minds, intelligence officials, and royal archivists whose entire purpose is to investigate lineage integrity whenever the monarchy's bloodlines are called into question. Their first move was swift and brutal. Within hours, William's office issued what is now being described as a royal freeze on Archie's reintegration attempt. The stated reason: serious irregularities and contradictions in the submitted evidence. Let's go back to where this particular chapter began. Prince Harry's legal team delivered a 72-page dossier directly to Clarence House. 72 pages. That is not a letter. That is not a plea. That is a legal arsenal, carefully loaded, methodically organized, and deliberately aimed at the heart of the monarchy's objections. Inside that dossier, according to multiple sources close to the process, was everything Harry's team believed they needed to settle this dispute permanently. A genetic paternity test from a California lab confirming Harry as the biological father of Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor. A sworn affidavit from Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, laying out her pregnancy timeline in precise, documented detail from 2018 through 2019. Ultrasound records from a Beverly Hills obstetrician. Even a notarized statement from a staff member at Portland Hospital, the London facility where Archie was officially registered as having been born. Every page, sources say, was designed to scream legitimacy. The goal was straightforward, though the stakes were anything but: restore Archie and Lilibet as formally recognized members of the royal family. Reopen the doors of the monarchy that had quietly but firmly been closed on them. Reinstate the titles, the privileges, the protections. After years of life in Montecito, under the weight of isolation, relentless public scrutiny, and the slow unraveling of the life they had tried to build. But what exactly were those irregularities? That is where this story gets truly, breathtakingly explosive. The silence that spoke loudest. TikTok analysts dissected his posture, his pauses, and the way his voice softened at certain moments. YouTube channels rushed out breakdowns within hours. Twitter threads stretched endlessly, all circling the same conclusion. Harry wasn't performing anymore. He was cracking. Even the British press, the very force Harry had spent years battling, sensed an opening. Morning headlines were sharp and relentless. Cryptic confession, trouble in paradise, freedom or regret. The Sussex fairy tale unravels. The tone wasn't speculative, it was surgical. And yet, amid the chaos, something unexpected surfaced. According to a close friend, Harry didn't look angry in the aftermath. He looked lighter, almost relieved. As if saying the words out loud, even partially, had lifted a weight he'd been carrying for years. That friend described it as watching a man finally admit, if only to himself, that this wasn't the life he believed he was choosing back then. That the promise of freedom came bundled with conditions he didn't fully see at the time. And once that realization settles in, it doesn't stay quiet for long. Because when someone stops apologizing for their truth, the story doesn't reset. It shifts. And the people who built everything around the old version are forced to decide what matters more, protecting the image or confronting what happens when the man at the center no longer agrees to play along. But as the realization settles in, it doesn't stay quiet for long. So, will Harry finally break free, or will the old story crush him? Stay glued. In the hours after the King's announcement, the Sussex camp released a 2-line statement through the Archwell Foundation. It said the Duke and Duchess of Sussex remained committed to their humanitarian work. That was it. No outrage, no accusations, no press conference, just silence wrapped in 12 careful words. And that silence, controlled, deliberate, impossibly restrained, told the real story. Because those who know Meghan Markle know she does not do silence by accident. Every word she releases, every image she puts into the world, is calculated with precision. So when she chose stillness, for the first time in years, he didn't step back. Instead, he responded with 6 words that changed the tone of the room entirely. I didn't destroy anything. I just told the truth. Nothing more. Insiders say the silence that followed was immediate and heavy, the kind that feels louder than shouting. Then Meghan stormed out, slamming the door so hard it reportedly shook the chandelier. But the real explosion wasn't confined to that house. It was already spreading far beyond it. Online, the reaction was instant and unforgiving. Royal watchers slowed the footage down, frame by frame. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Be honest. Be specific. This is the kind of conversation that actually matters. If this video gave you something to think about, please give it a like. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people and keep bringing you stories the mainstream media softens or skips entirely. Subscribe if you haven't already, because the next video in this series goes even deeper into what sources close to the Sussex household claim happened in the months after this scandal broke. You will not want to miss it. See you there.